Hola, soy Alfonso Lopez de 305 Broadcast y esta es la primera serie de 3 de un entrenamiento que tenemos en los productos de Wheatstone. En este primer episodio, que es una grabación de entrenamiento que hicimos con Zoom, vamos a hablar del software Navigator. Así que ahorita los dejo con Jay Tyler y yo que les serviré como traductor en esta sesión del software Navigator de Wheatstone. Muchas gracias.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your time today. Today's mainly we're going to speak about Navigator, since Navigator is the center of our AOIP universe.
Ok, bueno, primero que nada, muy buenos días a todos. Gracias por participar. Esta fue una iniciativa de un cliente que tenemos en Paraguay y me gustó que al invitarlo a tanto a la gente de multimedios como a los amigos de MBS, aceptaron rápidamente. Sé que todos nos enviaron ciertas dudas, las cuales después del entrenamiento ya Jay me las respondió y yo se las voy a ir pasando a ustedes. Y la idea de esto es, vamos a tener 3 sesiones. La de hoy se va a tratar de Navigator. La del próximo jueves vamos a hablar más de las consolas IP12 y L12, esa serie. Y ya después, la última semana de enero, vamos a hablar de algunos software adicionales. Entonces, ahorita nos vamos a enfocar en el Navigator. I just need a small intro, Jay, and you can continue.
Okay. So right now, I'm assuming everybody that's on this call is a WheatNet IP user and has Navigator.
Correct. Okay. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. So we've made a lot of upgrades to Navigator over the last, say, 3 years.
Entonces, al Navigator se le han hecho varias actualizaciones en los últimos 3 años.
The current version of Navigator is here on my screen. Trace 826.
3826 es la última versión del Navigator que se está usando.
Your blade should be also this Navigator. This version should be in your blades as well, if
Los
you're up to
blades
date.
de ustedes también deberían tener esta última revisión.
If you're not up to date with these versions of Navigator, I recommend you contact 305 or myself and request the software upgrade to get everything up to date.
Si no tienen el upgrade en sus consolas, por favor déjenos saber y nosotros lo enrutamos con la persona de soporte de Wheatstone para que les dé las instrucciones del download. Están en la página de Wheatstone. They are on your website, Jay, right?
No, because of on-air stuff, Alfonso,
Okay.
we want to make sure everybody contacts us to make sure they have the right drivers, this and that.
And who's the right person? Will be Rick?
Tech support at wheatstone.com.
Okay, techsupport@wheatstone.com, ahí lo pueden solicitar.
Okay. So when we launch Navigator, this is the splash screen or the entry screen that we see. It's a list of all of our devices over to the left, plus all the sources and destinations that these devices broadcast to the system.
Entonces, esta es la versión del Navigator. Como ustedes saben, están de este lado lo que son los destinos y en la parte superior tenemos las fuentes.
It's not necessary for Navigator to be running for normal operations.
No es necesario que el Navigator esté abierto cuando se está usando la consola.
Yep. So Navigator is mainly now used for setup and configuration and monitoring. If you start to develop problems, intermittent audio, slow response time on your console, we may ask you from the factory to open up Navigator and let it run for a while so we can look at the system log.
Ok, es importante porque en el Navigator, cuando lo tienen abierto y hacen una llamada de support, ahí sí es importante que lo abran un poco antes para que se pueda ver el log registrado.
I just installed this Navigator on this computer at around 9 o'clock, and you'll see here that all of the blades in the system constantly talk and communicate to the other blades, and the log in Navigator is what we use for support and to let us know that everything's okay.
Wheatstone usa el log del Navigator para el soporte porque podemos ver todo lo que está pasando en el sistema. Before you continue, Jay, 1 second. Marcos Cantoral está here. He's here. Llámalo, por favor, que se mete. All right, you can continue.
Okay. So when you look at the crosspoint, as I said, it's a list of all of your sources and destinations and where they're connected. And these dots indicate where they're connected and what type of signal is connected to them.
Ok, entonces en estos puntos hacemos el cross point, donde se va a dar la interfase de entre la fuente y el destino. Y también indica qué tipo, which types, Jay.
Okay, so right here we see two dots that are next to each other. Okay,
aquí tenemos dos puntos. Estos puntos,
that means I'm a stereo source connected to a stereo destination with left and right audio.
Eso quiere decir que estoy conectando una fuente estéreo a un destino estéreo. Son dos puntos.
Okay, the next system right here is going to be two dots on top of each other. Okay,
and son dos puntos, uno encima del otro.
And what that tells us is that I have a mono source, like a telephone caller or a single channel device, but I want to send that to both left and right channels. So the system will automatically see that it's a mono source and it'll connect it to left and right destination. That's the up and down dots.
Entonces, cuando está arriba y abajo, lo que indica es que la fuente es mono y la estoy conectando a un destino que es izquierda y derecha.
I will see if I probably don't have a single dot anywhere, but if you have just a single dot, Alfonso, that is a mono source to a mono destination.
Si tuviésemos un solo punto, es una fuente mono a un destino mono.
Okay. The last little dot you see here is a square. This indicates
es un cuadrado.
This is an LIO connection, like your on-air light. If you want machine start stop. So anytime we connect a GPI GPO to a GPIO function or to another GPIO, it's going to be a square.
Esto significa que estamos haciendo un cross point de una lógica para poder prender o apagar cualquier cosa.
Okay, so the cross point tells us everything, and each of these dots represents mono, stereo, a summed unit. If you have a stereo source, like a console program output, and you want to send that to a mono codec, you'll see two dots side by side, and that means the system is automatically summing those left and right signals to a mono output.
Ok, y cuando tienen los puntos uno al lado del otro, quiere decir que la fuente es estéreo y él está sumando esas dos fuentes hacia un destino mono.
Okay, so there's no more external summing boxes or crazy wiring that you guys do in the analog world with digital. Navigator will do 90% of that.
Entonces no se tienen que preocupar por esas cosas que pasaban en el mundo analógico. El software Navigator se va a encargar de eso.
Okay. So now, as I mentioned earlier, we've changed Navigator a little bit. So I'm going to go through the tabs on top. And if anybody's got any questions, Alfonso, you just interrupt me, okay?
Correct.
Okay.
One second, Jay. Necesito que César y Cantoral, si alguien haciendo una pregunta, me lo van diciendo. César, sobre todo, ¿ok? Y por supuesto, si tienen alguna pregunta, pueden ir escribiéndola en el chat, que César me va a estar diciendo y así yo se la puedo hacer a Jay, ¿de acuerdo? Entonces, lo que estaba diciendo Jay es que como el software Navigator ha cambiado recientemente en sus últimas versiones, él ahorita nos va a dar un pequeño recorrido por los tabs de aquí arriba. Ok, Jay.
Okay, so salvos and macros. Salvos and macros are basically multiple switches.
Salvos y macros son básicamente múltiples switches.
So if I was actually moving studios, I had studios 1, 2, 3, and 4. And at any time during the day that I want to switch that studio to a different transmitter, we would probably do that doing salvos.
Entonces, si yo quiero mover diferentes estudios a otro sitio, eso normalmente lo voy a hacer con los salvos. To be clear on the translation, Jay, so this means that if I have 3 on-air studio, each on-air studio has its own switch. From here is when I'm going to do the switching of one studio to the other one, right?
That's right. And so what we would move, for example, is we would move, we're going to find the console program bus, okay? So if this is studio 1, I would want to move, the output of this console to transmitter 5. And then we want to move the telephones over. We want to move the automation system over. And this allows our customers to have independent studios and switch them all around. They don't have to be dedicated.
Entonces, de esta manera podemos tener estudios de forma independiente y yo primero voy a tomar, si voy a mover un estudio a un nuevo sitio de transmisión, voy a tomar la salida de ese estudio y lo voy a poner al destino que es el sitio de transmisión. Ahí cambio el switch, después puedo cambiar los drivers, después puedo cambiar los teléfonos que pueden estar en drivers y lo hago desde los salvos. Okay,
yeah, and let's say we were using a Comrex or a tie line to as a backup for the transmission or codecs. All of that stuff comes into WheatNet. And so what we would do is I'll build one now. We will do
so
new.
To the devices that are WheatNet IP compatible, correct?
Anything plugged into the blade system, anything wired in and out of a blade, or anything plugged into the switch that advertises source as a destination.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to call this
okay. Todo lo que está conectado
305.
en el network, de aquí lo voy a poder llevar al otro sitio.
So,
es decir, que es como, it's like the cross point, but on an upper scale, right?
This is our cross point. It's the exact same as cross point, but what it allows us to do is set up a big switch. Correct. So in the computer world, we would call this a macro, not a salvo. It would be called macro. And what this allows us to do is that you'll see here, I have 305 test. And now I'm going to take this source and send it to this destination, this. And this allows me to set up a whole scene, and then through a button on a console or here, I can actually fire that. So if I go back to the cross point now and I look, I've got nothing connected to these sources here, but in my salvo, I want audition, aux, and these guys here. So I go back here, they're not connected. I come here and I hit fire. Hey, I'm sorry. And as you see here, it actually made the switch. I just switched it directly to the computer. So what a salvo does, it allows us to create a scene or multiple switches within the matrix to move at a given time.
Lo que estoy haciendo con los salvos es que estoy creando una escena de múltiples matrices, de múltiples fuentes dentro de la matriz para poder llevar distribución de un sitio al otro. Si no estoy claro en la traducción, señores, por favor interrúmpanme y levanten la mano y me dejan saber, porque la idea de esto es que ustedes se lleven la idea lo más clara posible. Yo no soy traductor por profesión y tampoco soy ingeniero, pero estoy tratando de hacer lo mejor posible para que pueda llegarles a ustedes. Okay.
And you can have as many salvos as you want, and they don't live in one blade. They follow and will live in all the blades. So if a blade's removed, you can still fire salvos.
Entonces los salvos ustedes los pueden hacer y van a estar disponibles en todos los blades. Esta información la tienen todos los blades. Okay?
Yep. So to sum it up, a salvo in a macro is multiple switches or multiple connection changes at once.
Entonces, para resumir, macros y salvos son múltiples switches o múltiples conexiones de una sola vez.
Next is the info tab, okay? And this tells us general settings for the system.
Este es el tab de información y nos dice la información de settings general del sistema.
Okay, so natively to IP, every source and every destination, sources being microphones, telephone callers, automation playout, remotes, destinations, speaker feeds, headphone feeds, program out, things to back to the Comrex. Every one of those devices has a unique multicast address.
Entonces, cada fuente que tengamos nosotros en nuestro sistema, llámese micrófonos, drivers, etcétera, tiene una dirección fija, única. Okay?
Yeah, and so basically underneath the hood of WheatNet IP, we take all your analog, all your digital, all your microphones, and every one of them is given a unique multicast address, which here looks very similar to an IP address.
Entonces, parece muy similar a una dirección de IP, pero esto es una dirección de multicast única que tiene cada fuente.
And look, guys,
Yes. ¿Quién tiene una pregunta?
Yo, Marco.
Sí, Marco, diga.
Sí, esta dirección IP es diferente a la dirección IP que va a tener Blade cuando se configura.
Is that address different than the one that's going to have the blade when you are configuring it?
Yes. So basically, and we do this automatically for you. I don't think you'll ever have to touch it.
Nunca lo tienes que tocar. Eso lo hace el sistema automáticamente por uno, Marco.
Okay, perfecto, gracias.
Yeah. So, for example, each of these addresses is based on the IP address and the ID of a blade. So, if you have a stereo blade, you have 8 inputs, 8 outputs, 2 utility mixers, and a headphone amp. The blade will automatically generate all of those, and it always has. But I want you to be aware that maybe in the future, because if you're joining to another network or you're doing a nationwide network, we may need to change that. Here is where we would change that. So this today is mainly just to tell you where it is and what's going on.
Entonces, esto es más que todo para indicarles dónde va esta dirección y lo que sucede en ella. Si ustedes a futuro tienen que hacer un network muy grande donde se tienen que tocar este tipo de direcciones, con el soporte de Wheatstone, ellos lo pueden ayudar y a lo mejor tienen que hacer algún cambio, pero por lo general para un sistema tradicional no hace falta la intervención de uno porque el sistema lo genera solo. Okay?
Okay. Yes, when everybody sets up their blade, the first blade in the system, it always asks you what sample rate you would like the system to be set at. And you usually set that from the front panel. But if you need to change that after your setup, here is where you change your system sample rate from 44.1 to 48 or vice versa.
Okay. Entonces, la primera vez que ustedes hacen una instalación, por lo general, al instalar el primer blade, es donde se les pregunta qué sample rate necesitan y lo hacen quizás directamente desde el blade. Pero si a futuro, por alguna razón, necesitan cambiar el sample rate, lo hacen desde este tab y pueden cambiar de 44 a 48 o viceversa. Okay?
I know there was a question earlier from the Multimedios guys about sample rate conversion. And we have sample rate conversion on all of our digital inputs. So it should work. In the United States here, about half of our customers use 44.1, the other half about 48.
Okay.
In Europe, it's all 48.
De los amigos de Multimedios, que para el tema de cambio de sample rate, en los Estados Unidos 50 y 50. 50% de los networks usan 44 y 50% usan 48. But you suggested?
It's personally, I would say 44.1 because most of the music that we listen to, CDs, anything that was created is created at 44.1. What really makes this, Alfonso, different is the streams. So if I am running 48K in my system, all of my digital output streams, digital AES outputs are at 48K.
Okay. Él recomienda personalmente el 44.1, porque todo viene. Pero ahora, what did you just say about the streams, Jay?
Yeah, so whatever the internal sample rate. So if my system is at 48K right now, all of the outputs, the AES outputs are at 48K.
Ok. Entonces, en este sistema tiene el sample rate en 48 y todas las salidas en AS67 están en 48. Okay.
So if you had an STL, a Mosley STL, that only wanted to see 48K, and you didn't want to use an external sample rate conversion box, you would just set your system at 48K.
Ok. Entonces, si ustedes tienen, por ejemplo, un enlace Mosley que está en 48, ustedes aquí pueden poner el setup a 48. Pero, yes?
So if, and every blade has the ability to be the clock master. So if you have one blade, he's the clock master. If you have 2 blades, you've got a backup. So just customers usually don't worry about this. If you change the sample rate and you go from 48 to 44 and you're running the audio driver, you have to restart those computers, else they will sound really slow.
Okay. You mean the computers where you have the drivers?
That's right, because the drivers sync to whatever the blade is. And if it's 48 and you slow the system down, all that drivers, a simple restart of the driver or the PC will sync it to 44.1.
Ok. Entonces, si tienen que bajarlo de 48 a 44 y están usando los drivers, deben hacerle restart a esas computadoras porque si no va a empezar a sonar muy lento. ¿Ok?
Yep. And okay, so if any of you
Okay,
folks are
one question, Jay, sorry. Alfonso, eso que él dice ya me ha pasado, pero no he visto que lo hacen, que cambia el sample rate del driver en la computadora, hay que cambiarlo manualmente. O sea, pregúntale si eso, además de reiniciar, hay que cambiar el sample manualmente.
He's asking if he has done it, but he doesn't, the computer doesn't seem, he has restarted the computer, but does he needs to make any other changes in their computer?
You know what? About 4 months ago, we saw a Windows update, and you would have to go into your sound devices. I'll show you right here. Good question. If it doesn't do it automatically, we go to Control Panel. We go to Sound. Here. And we go here. Properties. Advanced. And if move this, if this isn't set right, you can just change it right here.
We don't see this part of your screen, Jay, for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yes, you just see that.
Okay, and you don't see the sound device right here now?
Nope.
Please move this window from the shared application. Okay, so you would have to go to your, I'm sorry, can you see this window?
No.
Really? This is not sharing my screen. Okay, so you would basically under a control panel.
Maybe if you minimize the navigator.
Okay, I'll try. And we see control panel and sound.
I still see the navigator.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's under sound. Okay, so you basically go to control panel, sound.
Sound.
You pick the WheatNet output, say driver output number 1.
It's a driver output.
And then you hit properties.
Después le das a propiedades.
And then you may have to change the sample rate there if it doesn't match your system.
Ahí es donde podrías cambiar el sample rate de esa computadora.
I'm sorry, it's not changing.
Lamentamos mucho que no se puede ver en la pantalla.
This window away from the share.
All right, Jay, continue.
Okay. So now is our navigator. So, all right. So next, somebody else. All right. The Wheatstone system clocks itself. Very rarely do I have anybody in the world using external clock for the Wheatstone system, but it's part of our system.
El sistema Wheatstone regula todos los relojes por sí solo. En muy extrañas ocasiones es que ellos han visto donde uno tenga que manipularlo. Okay, yeah, just in case. Okay, I just translated that, and we don't see. Now we see your screen on the navigator.
Okay, I'm trying to go back to that. All right, so that's fine. So here, if you have an AES 67 clock, you would bring it in the 8th digital input on every blade.
Entonces, si ustedes quieren poner el clock en AES67, sería la 8ª entrada digital de cada blade.
Perfect, Becky. Perfect.
De nada, señor.
Yeah, so if you looked at every single back of your blade, the 8th is where you're going to provide that external input.
Entonces,
gentlemen, it's
el blade en el 8º es donde va a tener esa entrada.
And you'll see there's 2 inputs for that. So we actually have the ability to have a main external and a backup external.
Entonces uno puede tener la habilidad de tener 2 entradas, una principal y una de redundancia, de backup.
Okay, so then we get to AES 67. If we wanted to use interoperability for somebody else's equipment, and the minute I click AES 67, we're going to ask you to license that. It's free. All you have to do is click obtain a copy and email this to us.
Ok. En caso de que ustedes necesiten conectar cualquier equipo que esté en AES67, porque tienen que hacer una interconexión con otra marca, ahí es donde lo van a hacer y les va a preguntar que esto necesita una licencia. La licencia es gratis, pero deben solicitarla. Yeah. And for that, just send tech support at wheatstone.com, that's it. Right?
Yeah, yep, and it'll tell us right here.
Para
so
eso lo pueden hacer haciendo un email techsupport@Wheatstone y ellos le responderán inmediatamente. Okay.
And the reason we asked you to register it is because nobody owns AES 67, and we just keep track of who's using it. There's no charge, there's no nothing. We just keep it for our database to see how many people are using it.
Y lo están haciendo la pregunta porque como AS67 no es de nadie, ellos quieren mantener un récord de quién está usando AS67. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so the next thing is up here is SNMP info. I imagine most people, some of the bigger stations in Mexico are using it. SNMP stands for Simple Network Management Protocol.
Aquí es donde se ve la información de Single Network Management Protocol.
Yes, and what these are is a lot of the bigger companies have network monitoring tools. And what we do is they're able to peek into the blades, look at the status, silence detection. But an SNMP is basically an external way for another monitoring system, like our logging, to get in and see what's going on with the Wheatstone system.
Y esto se utiliza por si se quiere examinar el network desde cualquier aplicación o software de monitoreo de networks externo para poder ver lo que está pasando en el Weak IP system. Okay.
Okay, one thing that I will tell you that our system is very bad at is keeping time.
Una de las cosas que él puede garantizar que el sistema de Wheatstone es muy bueno es en mantener el log de los tiempos.
So I did a restart earlier when I updated the software, and the Linux in the blade thinks it's March 7th, 2005.
And
so
the what?
Yeah, the Linux in the blades. So the blades don't know what time it is. They never do. So what we do is we have a little button here, says use, and this sets the time on the clocks and the blades everywhere.
Ok. Entonces desde aquí yo hago el seteo de la hora de los blades para la comunicación que tiene el blade con Linux. You said Linux, right?
Yeah, because everything we do is in Linux.
Okay, got it.
All right. Or we have NPT. So if they have an NTP time server they want to subscribe to, they can.
Okay, entonces si ustedes tienen un servidor de NPT donde se han suscrito, ahí es donde harían ese seteo. Si no, se hace de manera manual. Okay.
Most people use manual. They'll click this.
La mayoría de las personas usan el modo manual.
Yep. So the IP12s don't have a clock. People don't use the clock on the blades, but like LX24.
People do or don't do?
Yeah, they don't have clocks on them. The consoles don't have clocks. Like the L12 and the IP12 and the DMX, they don't even have a clock.
Okay.
So,
los modelos IP12, L12 y DMX no tienen un clock, un reloj.
So most people just use this time. It updates the day, and any console with a screen on it, E6, LXE, LX24, the clock will be displayed there.
Got it. So here's where they set up it, and they use their own computer, correct?
Yep.
Entonces,
yep. Yeah, whatever laptop they're connected to.
El clock. Okay.
Okay. Next thing is very important. Not so much for the blades, but more for the console. So this basically, what everybody should do is they should have a screensaver on the blades, which dims the little displays.
Sorry, Dave, we have another question. We have one question here before you get into that.
Marco pregunta que si necesita una IP pública o puedo rotear a través de un puerto.
We have a question. If you need a public IP or if you can route that through a port.
For the time?
For the time, correct.
Yeah, it needed a public IP.
So
you probably put another network card in the
IP pública. Marcos. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Jay, you can continue.
Mexico, Baja Norte. Okay, look,
here's... We're going to go to see Baldo.
Yeah. So screensaver, this is important. You know, it just keeps the life of the OLEDs. So both on your blades and on your on your blades and on your consoles with the OLEDs, you should always dim them. Here's where you dim the actual displays on the blade. So
aquí es donde ustedes ponen el dim del display de cada blade y por lo general se pone para ponerlo en screensavers y ahí uno regula en cuánto tiempo.
Yep. For those of you guys who are using AES 67, if you want those AES 67 sources and destinations to be part of Navigator, you just click them here.
Okay.
Okay, some people are using AES 67, but they don't want the operators to touch it or use it, so it's in the background. But here is where now my cross point will expand, and I can see those other third-party IP devices like the Comrex.
Ok, aquí es donde ustedes pueden indicar si quieren que cualquier fuente que venga de AS67 se ponga en display en los cross points para yo verlo junto con el network de Weaknet IP. Si no, lo dejan afuera y nada más van a ver lo que está en el network de Weaknet IP. Okay.
If you're worried about people messing with the blades in the studios, you can set a passcode on the blade so nobody can get into them.
Ah, okay. Aquí se puede poner el password en los blades para que la gente no los toque y nada más al poner el password.
Yep. This system right now is up to date. As I told you earlier, he's running 3826. You can look when we have very big systems. Sometimes people will go in and look for versions. They may have blades or drivers that have old software, and this allows you this will flag the devices over here and put a red dot to them if they're running old software.
Not updated, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
But we've got some new things I'm going to show you here that makes it easier to do that.
One question, Jay. Here you said blade version, but how do I select which blade here?
This is all of them.
Aquí está la versión so here's the version of all the blades.
Yep.
And if there is one that is not with that version, it will be displayed at the...
A red dot over here.
Ah, ok. Aquí es donde yo veo la versión que todos los blades deben tener. Y si algún blade no tiene esta versión, que aquí ustedes pueden indicar si quieren una más o menos, entonces en la parte del sistema va a salir con un punto el que no esté actualizado. Ok.
But everybody on this call is going to get the latest and greatest software for Navigator, blades, and drivers, and everybody will be updated.
Pero esperamos que después de esta llamada todos puedan tener la última versión del Blade. De manera que si no la tienen, la pueden solicitar a nosotros o a techsupport@wheatstone.com. Okay, Jay.
And when you get when you guys get the new Navigator, you're going to see some new tabs that you haven't seen before, meters and locator. This is new, very, very new to us.
Esto es lo más nuevo que sale en la versión del Navigator, que es meters y locator.
Okay, so locator now goes out and looks at every single Wheatnet device on the network.
Okay.
And it shows you the IP address, the MAC address, the software version, the server, and it shows you everything about what devices you have on there. So basically, it's this list to the left, but with a lot more details. Yeah. Entonces, everybody can look and see what software version everything is on right here.
Claro. Entonces, este nuevo tab de Locator es básicamente lo que salía en el sistema, pero de una visión más expandida, con mayor detalle, donde pueden ver el IP address, el subnet, el MAC address, la versión, etc. Okay?
Okay, so in the past, the only way to change an ID on a blade was to reboot it. And now,
la única forma de cambiar el ID de un blade era haciéndole reboot.
And here now, we can actually go in and change IP addresses. We can change blade names I don't have access, but we can go in now through the GUI and actually change a lot of stuff on the blades that we had to do this earlier physically on the blade itself.
Entonces, con este tab de Locator, yo puedo hacer cambios que antes estaba obligado a hacerlo en presencia física del blade. Ahora lo puedo hacer a través del Navigator. Okay?
So really now you can actually, set all your blades up and then go as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Maybe somebody at the remote site will do this for you. They will put all the blades and just put generic numbers to get them on the network. Then somebody can log in and modify the IP addresses and the blade names through the GUI. And then you can reboot the blades remotely. So it gives these guys a lot more control for support, and we can help you out, and you guys can help yourselves out by getting the things through the GUI that weren't available before.
De esta manera pueden tener mejor control desde el network porque pueden preconfigurar algo que después la persona que esté localmente vaya a ver el cambio que ustedes hicieron.
So if somebody called me and they said, hey, we don't have any audio out of Studio 2, the first thing I would do is open up Navigator. I would look over here and say, oh, is Studio 2 here? And if it is, I may come over here and refresh. And if it's not in Locator or the log, it's probably a good indication of a switch issue or a cabling issue or a bad piece of hardware.
Entonces, si, por ejemplo, alguien llama al ingeniero y le dice, mira, del estudio 2 no está saliendo audio, uno lo primero que va a ir a donde está el estudio 2 y al darle refresh en el locator, vamos a poder ver que no está el estudio y lo más seguro es que haya algún problema con el switch mismo o con algún tipo de cable.
Okay. We talked about the log earlier, but the log and preferences tie into each other. So
del log, lo mencionamos hace unos minutos, pero el log y preferences van uno de la mano de la otra.
Okay. So one of the things I recommend everybody does, this is our visual preferences for the system. Okay. So right now I have my TOC blade as black. You know, we call TOC the rack room. Okay. And then each blade has its own individual color. That color also shows up in the log.
Okay.
So now you know what blade is associated over here. It's a visual.
Can you go back to preference, Dave, please?
Yep.
Okay, yep. Entonces aquí es donde tenemos la visual de preferencias. Y por ejemplo, aquí es donde podemos poner el TOC. TOC se llama el rack room o el cuarto de ingeniería. Y cada blade tiene un mismo color. Cuando yo voy al log, entonces yo podré ver, you can go back to the log. Yeah.
Yep.
Cuando voy al log, podré ver que depende del color que esté en el log, estoy hablando del blade que estaba indicado en el preference. All right.
Yep. So for example, and where that shows up also is in the cross point. So for example,
el cross point en las fuentes que vemos allá arriba, ahí es donde lo ponemos los colores. Okay.
So typically everything in my rack room,
those colors, Wheatstone, it does it by itself, right? The system.
Yes, they each get a unique color. But the first thing I do is I go in, I make the TOC red. And then let's say we've got blade 3 and blade 11 are Studio 1. I'll go in and make them, say, green. Okay. And that's green. And the reason why, oh, that's not wrong green. Green. Where was that green here? And then let's say these other ones are going to be a blue, and all my PC drivers.
Yes, so you organize yourself.
Yeah. So now, as an engineer, when I look at this cross point, everything in red is my rack room.
Understand.
Everything in green is Studio 1. Everything, and that way you can see. I understand a lot of your guys are 1 or 2 consoles, but you get 15 studios in a building. It's nice to be able to see those.
Right. Entonces, claro, cuando se instala Wheatstone pone un color para cada device, para cada equipo, para cada blade. Pero si ustedes quieren organizarlo por cuartos, ahí en las preferencias es donde puede decir, bueno, yo quiero que todo lo que esté en el rack room, que sea de un rojo, que esté en el estudio A, que sea en otro color y así sucesivamente para uno poder ver tanto los cross points como el log de una forma más fácil. Okay.
Okay. Yep. So I'm going to talk about Navigator, but I'm also going to talk about these upgrades that our people are going to do. I'm sure many people on this phone call have already done blade upgrades. I just want to show you the proper way to do that.
Pero aunque estamos hablando de Navigator, quiero hablar un poco de los upgrades y sabemos que muchos de aquí ya han hecho upgrades en el pasado, pero quiere decir la forma correcta de hacerlo.
Okay, so we're going to send you, so we're going to send you a new version of Navigator, and you're going to install new version of Navigator.
Entonces,
and in that Navigator,
una versión nueva de Navigator y ahorita la van a instalar. Okay?
Is going to be the firmware for your blades.
Sorry, I cut you up. I'm sorry, I couldn't listen to the first part.
In the new version of Navigator we send you will also be the firmware for your blades.
En la nueva versión de Navigator también viene la última revisión o versión de los blades.
Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is when you open up the new Navigator, the very first thing is go to Config Manager.
Entonces, lo primero que él recomienda cuando reciba la nueva versión de Navigator es que vayan a Config Manager.
First thing you do is you hit Save here on Save Current Crosspoint.
Le van a dar a Save donde dice Save Current Crosspoint.
Yes, because what that does, and every time you open up Navigator from now on, the first thing you should do is click Save Current Crosspoint.
Every time you open the new Navigator.
Every time you go to make system changes, go in and hit Save Current Crosspoint.
Ah, ok. Cada vez ahora que abran el Navigator, recomiendo. This is just a recommendation, right?
Just do it.
Que cada vez que vayan a hacer cambios en el sistema, él recomienda que vayan a Config Manager y le den a Save Current Crosspoint.
Yep. And then back up your blades. Just click back up.
Y después háganle backup a sus blades.
Yep. Yep.
This is just
Okay.
a good practice advice.
That's right. So now if something happens during the update or the computer crashes or the program, we have a good file of the backup of all the blades.
Got it.
But what the current cross point, and this is not so much backup or upgrade as it is save your ass.
Ok.
Okay, so
recomienda muchísimo porque si van a entrar al Navigator y si se hizo cualquier tipo de cambio, es de muy buena práctica el hacer save porque les va a salvar de pasar un mal tiempo.
Yep. So, for example, the significance of the Save Current Cross Point is when I selected this button, what it did is it recorded all of these little connections.
Claro, lo que hice fue que guardé todos los settings que ya tenía para
So,
no tener problema.
So I'm working with Alfonso remotely, and I'm doing this, and I do that, and this, and all of a sudden, the phone rings, and I sort of forget where I was. Okay.
Vamos a
I just
suponer que estábamos haciendo una configuración con la persona de otra plaza, y de repente sonó el teléfono y me distrajo en lo que estaba haciendo y se me olvidó por dónde iba. Okay.
So now I can, if I forgot or I got lost, I don't know what I did. I can hit restore.
Mm-hmm. And you go back.
This will go to the computer. It saved a file. And so I hit open and it will, yes. And it'll tell me 4 connections will be broken, 2 will be made, and 133. And this now it puts it exactly back where it was.
Got it. Y ahí es cuando se pueden salvar, porque si ahí es donde pueden hacer el restore y pueden ver qué les indicó, qué cambios hicieron, de qué tipo y qué cosas no se tocó en el sistema y de esa forma están más seguros.
So, yeah, it's just good because it gives you a good point. So, like I said, even if you're moving the mouse by mistake and you make a cross point, you don't know what you did, just go back to config, restore, and the last file we saved, and it'll tell you, I'm going to break 1 connection. 1 connection will be changed.
Got it. Okay.
So, all right. So I recommend doing that for everybody. And that is in the last newer versions. So now we want to upgrade the blades. We've got the new kit navigator. I did a system backup. I saved the cross point.
Okay.
So now what you do is you
ahora
go.
Vamos a hacer un upgrade de los blades. Ya salvamos los cross points, ya hicimos un backup. Okay.
So then what you eat, look, I'm already on the current software, but I'm going to do it anyways. So I select all the blades.
All right.
I hit update. Okay. The new navigator has the file, the firmware in it. It'll point you right to it. Click that and hit open.
Indica cuál es la versión.
And then yes. Now listen.
Seleccionaste todos los blades, los seleccionaste todo. Le dices OK.
Hit C. Okay, so while I'm doing this, the board is on the air. All I'm doing is loading the firmware in some RAM.
Y mientras estoy haciendo, el sistema sigue funcionando, las consolas están al aire, el audio está corriendo.
Now, to initiate this upgrade, this update, you have to reboot the blades.
You do have to reboot the blade.
You have to. So, you have 2 options here.
Entonces, cuando se vaya a hacer el upgrade, hay que hacer reboot del blade.
Okay, I can say reboot now, and I can say no. Okay,
Puedes
now the
reboot now
system,
todos, o le puedes decir que no.
the system is running, everything is good. It's fine. Now, let's say that I don't want to take the station off air until midnight. So you can leave the firmware in the blades. It's running fine.
But Jay, one question. In some cases, you know, a certain blade will not be used. It's not essential for the station to be on air.
Yep. So what we'll do then, like blade 61 is just a blade in the voice track studio.
Right.
So here I say reboot blade.
Okay.
And all I'm rebooting is blade 61.
Okay. Okay, so ahí es donde ustedes pueden indicar si tienen algún blade que no es esencial para la estación que esté al aire, ustedes van al blade y dándole right click, van a hacer reboot blade.
Yep. So my recommendation, I've seen everybody try everything, moving cables to stay on air, backup players. Here's the deal. Right now, whether it's one blade or 100 blades, it's going to take 2 minutes. You're going to have 2 minutes of dead air.
Okay. Entonces, hay gente que hace muchas previsiones y cambian cables, etcétera, lo hacen de una manera manual. El blade que va a ser esencial, mientras tanto, le va a tomar, tienen que considerar que les va a tomar 2 minutos el upgrade. Son 2 minutos que tienen que dejar de usar ese blade y pueden estar usando otro mientras tanto. Just one second, because I believe we have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
A ver, we have one question from Marcos. Let me unmute him. Okay, Marcos.
Hola. No, yo lo que quería saber era si yo cuando se hace el backup de la configuración, si el nombre que se queda registrado es un default o me permite cambiarlo.
Can you say that again, Marcos? Disculpa, yo estaba pensando en otra cosa. Estaba acostumbrado a traducir de inglés a español y ahora se me fue el cerebro. Dime. Marcos, ¿puedes decir de nuevo?
Ok, voy. Que en la parte cuando él hablaba para hacer el backup de los blades, de la configuración de los blades, si el nombre y la dirección donde se almacena es una dirección fija y un nombre fijo o se le puede cambiar.
When you set up the backup of the blade, he's asking if he is able to change the ¿cambiar qué cosa, Marcos? ¿Cambiar qué?
Cambiar el nombre y la dirección donde se almacena.
He can change the name or the address where it's going to be stored, the file.
Yes. Yeah, so I hit save, backup here. Yes. And I hit OK. No, it's saved here. It's saved here in Navigator under config. You've got to go to your... No, you can't change it. No.
No lo puedes cambiar, Marco.
No. Nobody's asked me that before, but sorry. But you can go grab this out of the folder and drag it onto a thumb drive and keep it.
Pero lo puedes agarrar del config, lo agarras en un folder y lo llevas a un USB. Si okay.
So here's how Jay Tyler recommends everybody does their software updates.
Aquí es como él recomienda para hacer los upgrades del software.
You go into the station in the evening, say 7, 8 o'clock.
Van a la estación en la noche.
You select all of the blades, and then you update.
Blades,
yep, then you update them all, okay? And you wait until all this happens. And if you have good power and a good backup, you go out to dinner. Okay? You go out to dinner. Don't drink too much. And then you come back at midnight. Okay, I'll show you. So
y después regresa un par de horas luego.
And I'm telling you this, the very, very best way to make sure this goes smoothly is to reboot all blades. So this will...
La mejor forma que pueden hacer esto es ir después y hacer reboot a los blades.
So we come back late at night, and then we go to the system.
Entonces vamos después al sistema, al final de la noche.
Reboot all blades.
Reboot all blades.
And then, and actually for the first 20 seconds, the music will still play and be connected. But after that, you're going to lose audio for 2 minutes.
Y básicamente la música va a sonar por los primeros 20 segundos, pero después de eso va a estar fuera por 2 minutos.
Your automation system.
I don't select the main source. No, I can just have one driver playing my automation software, and it's not gonna stop being off the air, no?
Yeah, because it needs the blade clock to work.
Ah, okay, got it. Okay, I didn't
Just
know
do
that.
it in the middle of the night. I've tried everything, Alfonso. Trust me.
The thing that I have always, in every speech that I do, I always say the opposite. So it's my
Well,
bad then.
Okay, so remember the blades have a clip player inside of them. They play audio.
Mhm.
You can take a blade, unplug the Ethernet device. Its outputs feed your transmission processors or STLs, and you can play that, no problem. And then you can, when the system comes back, you can move a cable or two, and then you can reboot that blade. But I just recommend 2 minutes of silence. It's okay.
Vale, estábamos aclarando porque yo tenía otra idea que no se tenía que hacer el reseteo, pero sí, él está recomendando que al hacer este upgrade lo hagan en la noche, le dan select all y el blade va a estar fuera del aire 2 minutos porque no tiene reloj. Yo pensé que podía salir audio del driver, pero él está también sugiriendo que de una salida del blade se puede direccionar a... se puede hacer un bypass de alguna manera. Si tienen la pregunta específica de cómo hacer el bypass, después se las digo para que me la traduzca. Okay,
and Alfonso, we put out about one big upgrade a year.
Okay. Y ellos hacen realmente un update al año, un update grande, significativo.
Okay, and so, where is it here? Let me find it. Locator, info. So here's how our upgrades work. You see this, we have a major, a minor, and then a release.
Aquí funciona los upgrades. Tenemos un major, un minor y un release.
Everything should be on the same first major upgrade, whether it's, so if you have this says 2, everything should be on 2. If you have blades that are in the major category, you should get them updated as immediately as possible. They should all be at least on the same major.
Todo lo que uno tenga en el network debe tener por lo menos el release major. Si están en el 2, todo debería estar en el 2. Si están en el 3, si tienen un device que está en el 2, deben hacerlo lo antes posible. Okay?
Now, listen, I understand that some of these things are going to happen after hours. And I'm going to give you instructions right now with a telephone number. So if you are off the air for any reason, I mean, off the air, you can call us.
Okay. Y estas cosas pasan en la noche. Pero si ustedes van a estar fuera del aire por cualquier razón, hay un número que él les va a dar en este momento. Which is?
252.
252.
638.
638.
7000.
638. 7000.
Sí.
7000.
Okay. So when you, and if it's after hours, it's the middle of the night, it's a Saturday or Sunday, you're going to listen to a recording. When you call that number and the office is closed, you will hear a recording. You have to wait 15 seconds. Be patient. And
al llamar fuera de horas, van a ver una grabación, tienen que esperar 15 minutos. Con poca paciencia.
And then after 15 seconds, they're going to say, if you're off the air, here's the phone number to the technician to call, because it changes every week.
Understand. Y entonces al esperar 15 segundos, le va a decir si está fuera del aire, este es el teléfono del ingeniero que debe llamar, porque cambian de ingeniero todas las semanas de guardia.
Okay, so the version we did, now the config manager. Now, once you have upgraded the blades, go back in and hit the backup button again.
Una vez
then we have
upgrade el blade, es muy recomendado que de nuevo hagan otro backup. Okay?
That way we have a backup of all the current versions and then you go home.
Y ahora tenemos un backup de todas las versiones actuales y ya se pueden ir a casa.
Okay. So there's 2 new tabs here. There's a couple new tabs here as well. Meters.
Hay otro tab nuevo que se llama meters.
So in the past, the only way to see metering on your sources and destinations has either been look at the blade itself here or use an external meter app.
En el pasado, la única forma de hacer, de poder tener esta información era yendo al meter de cada blade o comprando la aplicación que se llama Meters. Jay, before you continue, I believe we have another question. One second.
Sebas pregunta que si el loop day puede aplicar para todas las generaciones de los blades o solo para el blade 3.
Perdón, repíteme.
El loop day de eso sirve para todas las generaciones de blade o solamente para el número 3.
If somebody's asking if the upgrade, when you do upgrade, applies to every version or only to the main version number 3?
No, so I didn't understand that. So
one second, let me make sure I'm saying the question right. ¿Me puedes repetir?
¿El upgrade aplica para todas las generaciones de los blades o solamente para el blade?
If the upgrade applies to all versions of the blades or only to the 3?
nope, the upgrade does apply to all versions, but if you have a very old, like a 1 or like an early 2, it's a two-step process, and we have instructions to do that. No problem.
Funciona para todos, pero si tienen una versión 1 o una versión de las primeras del 2, se requieren 2 pasos adicionales y ellos tienen un white paper, una guía de cómo hacer esos pasos. De manera que si nos mandan un correo o a techsupport@wheatstone.com, ellos le pueden mandar esa guía con los 2 pasos. Okay, yeah, you can continue with the meter.
Okay, so now this is a really handy tab. So what it does, it elects us to select certain blades and have their meters. So if I have a couple blades in the TOC, that's my transmission blades, program, stream, that you can actually just build meters here. So
and you build them, you customize it as you
yeah,
want.
4 blades. Yep, yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
entonces esto es para tener una mejor visualización y yo puedo customizar a la manera que quiera estos medidores y yo puedo meterme en el blade de cada sitio. Can you show us some examples of the customization? Can you change it as in your software, the meter software?
I can show you a meter app that does it, but this is just a quick visual way to look and what's going on inside your blades without clicking on the blades.
Got it. Okay. No, perdón, yo les estaba preguntando si se podía cambiar el tipo de meter, porque en la versión de ellos, meters, sí se puede hacer, pero en esto puedo customizar solamente para saber qué fuentes o qué destinos quiero estar viendo de cada blade, quiero monitorear en forma visual. Okay.
Okay, new share. Here we go. So just because I'm bored of Navigator, we also have a great application called the Meter app. Okay.
Okay. También tienen una aplicación que se llama Meter app.
Yep.
I don't see right now anything in your screen for some reason, but let's try it. Okay.
Okay. Do you see?
En esta aplicación Meter app, aquí sí podemos customizar los relojes de la forma que yo quiera. Yo creo que algunos de ustedes tienen esta aplicación.
Do you see this now?
Yes, we can see this.
You can. Okay, so what the Meter app does, this is an external application that peeks into WheatNet IP and is able to pull all the input and output meter data that goes along with that.
Esta es una aplicación externa de WheatIP donde podemos monitorear cualquier blade y podemos cambiar los relojes y es muy útil para el cuarto de ingeniería. But yeah, let's go that in the third session, which will be in January.
Okay.
Better. So we can focus in the Navigator. Let me ask if they have some type of questions right now in reference to the Navigator. Vamos a hacer un pequeño, no break, pero vamos a dar un chance si tienen algunas preguntas. Do you have anything more to say about the Navigator, Jay?
Or half an hour.
You have half an hour?
Easy.
Okay, got it. Vamos a seguir 30 minutos más y después vamos a lo que son las preguntas de cada uno si tienen preguntas individuales. Let's continue, Jay, and then we go to questions and answers.
Okay, so right here, over to the left, this is called the system dock, okay?
Esta se llama el muelle de sistema.
Yep, and this shows us all of our devices connected to the system.
Y aquí nos muestra todos los devices que están conectados al sistema.
There's a new thing here called inactive blades. And what this does is it remembered which blades were originally connected to the system and they're missing. You see here, blade 1, 25, 26, 27.
Okay, esto es algo nuevo que tiene la última versión. te nombra los blades que están inactive. Son blades que en algún momento estuvieron en el sistema, pero ya él no los está viendo. Okay?
So let's say that I am Multimedios Monterrey, where I have all these IP12 studios. If the engineer walked in and opened up Navigator and saw a bunch of inactive blades, this would be an indication that that studio is disconnected from the system.
Right. Entonces, el ingeniero, por ejemplo, el caso de Multimedios en Monterrey, que tienen varias IP12, si el ingeniero chequea en esta pantalla, él puede ver inmediatamente que en ese estudio hay tantos blades que no están conectados en el sistema.
So if in here, this might be an example. For example, Baldo gets a blade from another market and he plugs it into his system to test it and everything. Well, when he removes it and sends it to the other market, it's going to show up here. And if you want to remove it, you just right click, remove an active blade. But it's another way our system tells you something was here and now it's not.
Claro. Es otra forma de decirle algo está aquí, estuvo aquí y ya no lo está. Por ejemplo, si usaron un blade de otra ciudad y lo usaron y lo pusieron en esta, a partir de ahora va a salir en este mapa. Si ya definitivamente lo van a quitar de esta ciudad, dándole right click, le pueden dar remove device.
That's right. Yeah, if you don't want them, because the system will remember they were there. It's a
Si no
feature.
lo quieres, porque el sistema va a recordar que estuvo ahí.
Okay, so this is called the system doc. If you open up your thing and you don't see it, just click system doc and there it is.
Si no lo ven, le dan clic a System Doc y va a aparecer. And can you pin? So it always be there? Can you put
No. I mean, unless you click it, the only way to make it go away is to click the button.
Got it. La forma única de quitarlo, si no lo quieres ver, es dándole clic a System Doc. Okay.
One of the most, and I don't know if you know it's here, one of the most useful tools is Detail Doc.
Y una de las herramientas más recomendadas usadas es la Detail Doc. Okay.
Yeah, so earlier we were on your salvo. We made the 305 salvo test, and it actually tells me.
El salvo y creamos el salvo test.
It tells me all the connections that's going to make. It's just a nice way, instead of looking at the cross point, it generated a list.
Entonces aquí puedes ver los destinos y puedes ver las fuentes.
So up here in the top in my sources, I have this source called LXE program. That's the main output from the console.
Mm-hmm.
When I click on a source, it will tell me everything about that, even what it's connected to.
On the source, nice.
Yeah, you see this? So it says it's the name, it's program, it's here.
Si yo me muevo a una fuente en particular, por ejemplo, esta es la salida de programa de una consola LXE, al cliquear aquí, puedo ver el detalle de todo lo que está en esa fuente y lo que está conectado, qué cosa está conectado desde esa fuente. Okay?
Yeah, because in the past, I would click on program here, and I would scroll all the way down to the whole matrix to see what it was connected to. Now, I can just click on any source,
claro, en el
and here's what it tells me.
Uno tenía que ir scrolling down, bajando con el mouse en la pantalla de Crosspoint, pero ya ahorita lo tenemos de una forma más visual y más amigable. Okay?
Okay, and then here, all right, so for you customers that are using silence detection, there's an alarm doc. So if we set up, and we can talk about that next week with the console stuff, but if we want to set up silence detection, which is in every analog digital blade, all of those alarms will be displayed here.
Okay. Y esto podremos hablar en más detalles la semana que viene, que vamos a hablar de las consolas, pero si en cualquier momento ustedes necesitan activar algún equipo que tenga detector de silencio, lo van a hacer desde ese dock que se llama Alarm Dock.
So a good system will have the system, the alarms, and the details here. Those should be the main tools that the engineers need.
Estas son las tres herramientas fundamentales que ellos recomiendan tener siempre visual en pantalla. Details, alarms, y system.
Yep. Okay, so the next is the system view, okay? Earlier, I told you that every source and every destination had a unique stream.
Este es el System Doc y él al principio les había mencionado que cada sistema Sorry, that each system has?
Every source and destination has a unique multicast address.
Que cada fuente y cada destino tiene una dirección única multicast. Cada stream. Yes, sir. Jay, you can continue. As you have no audio, Jay. Apparently, you mute yourself. No, in the Zoom app.
Yeah, how's
No.
that? I don't know. I must have bumped the button. Sorry, Paki.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so
Thank you for wearing the 305 shirt.
This one, Paki? Yeah, Paki.
Gracias.
Nice. 305, Paki.
Gracias. Y a todos los que están participando, le vamos a mandar también una franela de 305 and one of Wheatstone. Yeah, you should send me a couple of Wheatstone so I can send to the guys that are participating here.
Of course, of course.
Ya le acabo de pedir unas franelas y unas hats de Wheatstone a todos los que han participado el día de hoy. Okay.
So, as you start interacting with other devices, I know the guys at Multimedios asked about the Comrex device, okay? In my world, everything shows up in a cross point and we can connect to it. But when we start working with stuff outside the WheatNet world, they're going to need to know these, okay? They're going to need to know the multicast addresses of either source or destination streams they want to talk with.
Entonces,
okay, so
ya vamos a hablar con otros equipos, bien sea códex de Conrex, que Conrex ahorita lanzó un nuevo códex que habla con Wheatstone, el multirack o de Timeline. Aquí es donde yo necesito, a juro, ver el multicast stream de esos sources. Okay?
Yeah, for example, if you're using mix minuses, okay, right here, I have our bus minus on the LXE.
Por lo menos, si van a usar mix minus, aquí yo tengo un ejemplo de un bus minus en una consola LXE.
Yeah, they get a unique address. That way, it allows us to send whatever we need to another device. So
ellos van a tener una dirección única y esto nos va a poder permitir mandar ese string a otro equipo.
And that's in the system view. So for you guys that want to set up AES67 stuff, click on the system view, and this is where you're going to get all your source stream info in case somebody wants to subscribe to that device outside of our network.
Entonces, los que van a trabajar con AES67 o con equipos que no son de la red de WikiIP, aquí es donde van a poder ver estas fuentes y destinos.
Okay, so in Blade 3 right now, and this might be a little bit too technical, but just like in the world where we've got in the AES world, Alfonso, we've got 44.1, 32 kilohertz or 48 kilohertz.
Mm-hmm.
IP audio has its own unique packet rate. Okay. Packet rate.
En el mundo de AES67, donde tenemos diferentes sample rates, 32, 41. Every audio, can you say that again, Jay?
Yeah, so every AOIP audio system out there, whether it's a driver, whether it's WheatNet IP, it's Axia, it's Lavo, it's AES67, they all have unique packet rates. And go ahead.
Cada uno de esos sistemas tiene un rate de paquete único. Espero que haya traducido eso bien. Me disculpan, pero si saben la palabra rate de paquete, mejor dicha que yo, me lo dicen, please. Okay.
And this is very important because if the packet rates, if you're trying to talk to an external device and the packet rates aren't the same, it won't work.
Okay. So, y esto es muy importante hacer el seteo porque si el packet rate es diferente, no va a trabajar. Tienen que ser siempre el mismo. Ahí está el paquete.
So here you see Wheatstone uses 1/4 millisecond packets.
Aquí ven que Wheatstone usa paquetes de 1/4 milisegundo.
Yep. And usually an Axia uses 1/4 milliseconds. Anybody with embedded hardware uses 1/4 milliseconds. So it's very easy.
Todo el mundo que tiene audio embebido usa 1/4 de milisegundo.
All right, and so that's our native rate and how we work within our system. But for you guys that want to connect the stack NX6 to our device, that's basically a computer in a box. And any computer in the box uses what we found is 1 millisecond packets.
Y si van a conectar, por ejemplo, el stack básicamente es una computadora y ellos han descubierto que la mayoría de las computadoras usan packet rate de 1 milisegundo. 1 millisecond?
Yes. Yep. So I'm not even gonna get into it on our call, but if somebody needs to translate some of our streams from 1/4 milliseconds to 1 milliseconds, they can reach out to our tech support department and we'll send you a doco. It takes about an hour to configure it.
Por alguna eventualidad, alguno de ustedes necesita cambiar el taco de ese stream, por favor, mándelo a la fábrica y ellos le van a enviar cómo hacerlo y va a tomar aproximadamente una hora.
Okay, and this isn't all, and this is in Blade 3. We can do the translation for you. If you're Blade 2, you have to buy a Blade 3 for your system.
Oh, sorry, can you say that again? And why?
I said so. If anybody that has Blade 3, we have some horsepower in there in Blade 3.
You mean the version Blade 3? Okay.
That's right, the version Blade 3. If you have Blade 2, it won't work. If you want to work with AES 67, the minimum requirement is a Blade 3.
Okay. Y si necesitan trabajar con AES 67, el mínimo requerido de hardware es que tengan un Blade 3. La versión Blade 3, que son las que tienen los cuadraditos en el front panel, no los Blades viejos, que son los que tienen el display verde largo. Okay?
And we do have Blade 4 coming out at the beginning of the year, and it'll make it a lot easier.
Y pronto, a principio del año que viene, van a tener nuevas versiones de Blades que se llamará Blade 4.
Yep. Okay, and so under system view is where you find all the parameters for the input and output streams in Wheatstone.
Entonces en system view es donde van a ver todos los parámetros de destino y fuentes de estas que están fuera del red WheatEP.
You can also set up some views here where you can set up some source views. This is just a view screen that allows me to build filters for my sources and destinations. Nobody uses it.
Tener una visualización donde yo puedo crear diferentes visiones de mis fuentes y de mis destinos.
It's an easy way to look at all your sources and destination in the system without using the crosspoint.
Es otra forma fácil de ver todos mis destinos y mis fuentes sin usar la pantalla de crosspoint.
And what I'm seeing now, Alfonso, which is unique, is in the past, our customers that installed WheatNet IP worked on the WheatNet IP, but now it looks like we got a lot of new engineers that have come into the stations that didn't do the install. So a screen like this might be easy for them to find the sources and destinations.
Entonces, esto en el pasado no teníamos este tipo de pantalla, pero si uno ahorita se está acoplando al sistema, esta es una muy buena forma de ver las fuentes y los destinos.
Yeah. All right. So that, and then obviously there's the about. Xpoint is just another cross point. We don't use it, but it's another representation of this if you want to move it over somewhere.
El botón Xpoint es solamente otro cross point que se duplica en la pantalla.
Yeah, but most of the people are going to use this. And then, there we go. The about.
Y finalmente, the about.
Yep, this tells us the version we're using. So everybody now should go look at their computer and make sure their version is getting up to date. And then this is also if I want to request an AES 67 license.
Again, aquí donde se puede pedir, solicitar la licencia para AES 67.
Yep, so that's the about, okay. So, look, everybody here, so now we have our blades, okay? Does everybody know about the blades on this call, or should I go through a blade?
Let's go through a blade, Jay. Of course, we have 20 more minutes, and then we go to questions and answers, and that's it.
Okay, so...
Vamos a hablar un poco, ya saliéndonos un poco de Navigator, vamos a profundizar un poquito más en lo que son los blades.
Any questions, though, in the meantime, before we go too far?
Antes de que sigamos, ¿tienen alguna pregunta en este momento? ¿Cualquiera? Lo pueden poner en el chat o pueden desmutearse si gustan.
Nothing?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to click on a blade. All right. And in the blade here, I look at this blade and it tells me it's a processing blade. Okay.
This is a processing blade, an Aura 8.
Yep. Let me go to an easier one.
Okay.
Here's a standard AD blade.
Okay. Aquí tiene un blade AD.
Okay. It has, I can have up to 8 inputs stereo.
puedo tener 8 entradas estéreo.
Yep. So right now I see this guy as you look down here, I can see the mic 1 is mono because I have a slider. You see the slider for mic 1?
Tengo el micrófono 1 que es mono y sabemos que es mono porque vemos un slider.
Yep. So here's 1 stereo channel. Here's 3 is mono, 4 is mono. A CD player is stereo. So there's my 3 channels. And here's a tie line. But I know that this blade has got 8 more sources on it. So if I configured it to be custom and I want to add more sources, we just hit add. And the source is going to be 305.
When you click add, sorry.
Oh, and that's okay. Let me go back here to close.
Okay.
So my resources, each blade, this AD blade has the ability to have anywhere between 8 stereo and 16 mono sources. And if you don't see a meter configured, that means I have an available resource.
Ah, okay. I see now where you press add.
So I go up and hit add.
Okay, got it.
And let's say this is going to be 305 CD2, whatever. And it's a stereo signal. All I do is hit finish, and there it is. And now in my matrix, here's another trick.
Yeah, 1 second before you go to that, Jay, I have to translate. Ok, si tenemos aquí un blade y vemos que este blade, aquí nos estaba indicando que tenía, would you remove the screen, Mr. Tyler, please? Thank you. Y vemos que este blade tenía estas 2 primeras fuentes que eran mono, esta que era estéreo, y quisimos agregar otra fuente, le damos al botón de add, y aquí es donde podemos agregar la fuente en ese blade. Okay, Jay, you may continue. Sorry.
Okay, and listen, if you're bringing unbalanced sources into a blade, there's enough gain. There's enough gain
no son
here.
Balanceadas en el blade, okay?
There's enough gain where you don't need an external box. A lot of people will use a match box or some RDL stick-on. You don't need it. You don't need it.
Aquí puedes ajustar la ganancia de ese equipo que no está balanceado. Mucha gente a veces compra equipos externos como el Matchbox, por ejemplo, para esos equipos que no son balanceados o no son profesionales, pero en cada blade yo puedo regular la ganancia de manera que no es necesario comprar eso. Okay?
Okay. Destinations. We have up to 8 stereo or 16 mono destinations. They work just like the inputs. If I want to add here, and I'm going to call this X5 processor.
Aquí vamos a ver los destinos.
Oh, see? And I hit finish. Well, actually, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm adding my Forces processor so I can feed it an output. I'm also going to enable silence detection on that output. So every output on the A blade, the AD blade, the Aurora blade, and the digital blade has the ability to have silence detection.
Entonces, cada salida en un blade AD, A o D, yo tengo la posibilidad de agregarle detector de silencio.
Okay, so the first thing I do is I finish. Now I have an X5 destination, which I'm going to wire, cross point, usually programmed to. But it also
aquí tengo un procesador X5 y aquí es donde le voy a poner el cross point para ese procesador, ¿ok?
And here you see it says X5 processor. That's my destination, and there's my gain control for it.
Aquí tengo el procesador y aquí tengo el control de ganancia para ese procesador.
It also gave me another destination, which I will show you in the cross point.
Y también me dio otro destino que ahorita nos los va a mostrar en el cross point.
Okay, so normally we're gonna take our program from our console as soon as I can find it here.
Normalmente vamos a tomar el programa de la consola, ahorita lo va a localizar.
All right, and we're gonna send that to so program goes to our X5 processor.
Entonces programa va para el procesador X5.
And I just happen to be sitting in front of a mixer right now. And so you can see if I move this, you see the audio is red.
Y él está ahorita al frente de un mixer, entonces ustedes pueden ver que eso está en rojo, okay?
So now when I pull the fader down, you're going to see it go green. Okay, that means I don't have audio there. When I push it back up, now I have audio.
El fader se pone verde, quiere decir que no tiene audio. When it's green, you have no audio.
Yep. Yeah, and you can change that. That's in preferences. We'll talk about that if we have some time.
Se puede
Okay.
cambiar el color en preferencias. Ahorita lo vamos a hablar.
Let me find this. Okay, so does everybody know that you can have an audio player in a blade?
¿Usted, alguno sabía que se puede tener un audio player dentro del blade? Ahí lo pueden ver. Okay.
Okay. So basically what a lot of people do is they'll take an audio player and they'll put a list of songs in there, okay, that are the backup emergency music.
Okay, nice.
Okay, and so they just let it play.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, and
Uh-huh.
all right, and so now what I'll do with my system, as I showed you, first of all, the program goes to the main processor, okay? But if somebody in the studio pulls the fader down, you know, you'll see that I don't have audio going to my processor.
Okay.
So what we have the ability to do, Mr. Lopez, is I can take this clip player here, and I can route that to my B audio.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So if I lose audio going to my main processor, the clip player will feed it until audio is restored. And where you set that up.
Wait 1 second, please. I have to translate.
Yes.
Can you go back, please, to the
Sure.
screen? Thank you. To the cross point. Okay. Okay. Entonces, cuando creamos esa fuente que estaba del procesador que salía del programa de la consola, aquí es donde pusimos el cross point. Pero después vimos en la pantalla que cada blade tiene un player. En ese player ustedes pueden poner el audio que ustedes quieran y programar un pequeño playlist de emergencia. Y ahí es donde lo están poniendo, que es este clip player, que es acá, y lo estoy poniendo en el segundo destino que se creó cuando puse el procesador de audio. De manera que ahí es donde yo voy a ajustar a cuántos segundos que detecte X silencio se active ese clip player. And then it can come back or when it will.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you how to configure it. It's really, really
Y
easy.
ahorita le voy a mostrar cómo se configura.
So I go to my output here, which is the processor.
Entonces voy
And I go to silence detect.
al procesador, voy a silent detect.
And what I'm going to say is if there is no audio
Y lo que va a decir es que si no hay audio en
for 10 seconds,
10 segundos,
fail over.
haga un fail over.
Yep, but if audio comes back,
Pero si el audio regresa,
I want you to fail back over.
que haga
So-
un fail back. ¿Dónde está?
Okay, so right now I'm feeding program from my console to the processor.
Entonces,
Now remember, Joe, remember,
el programa al procesador.
yeah, I can't change the wires to your processor. So you've only got one set of digital coming out of my blade to your processor or IP. But what we can do is all the matrix is doing, it's switching the source to the processor. So right now, when I pull my fader down, you see it go red?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch. You see it changed?
Ya hizo el cambio.
You like my numbers, Paki, huh?
Very good. Yeah,
So watch. So now the board operator comes in from having a cigarette and he
y ahora
realizes,
viene el que controla la consola del break que tenía.
yeah, he turns the fader back up
Lo
and in 10 seconds,
y en 10 segundos más se vuelve el programa original.
it'll change back.
Okay. Give me 1 second, Jay, because I believe we have another question.
Okay.
Muñe pregunta que si el player viene incluido o algún software.
Yes. If the player is included or if there's any additional
It's
cost.
$200 option. And if you tell me the serial number you will have,
You're
we
kidding,
can maybe,
right?
yeah, it's some of them have it in there. We can enable it, or they can buy it when they buy new blades.
Okay. Es una opción de que cuesta $200 si la quieren activar. Okay.
Okay, so also not only does it change audio back and forth, it will also, when we created the failover, the system gave us, I will show you in the log here. You see it says X5L. This is a logic port. So for the more advanced people, when it failed over, if somebody wants to light a light or activate a logic port, the system gave us a control to do that.
Okay. Y esto
More advanced.
sería en caso de que tenga que hacer un failover, también pueden controlar la lógica desde ese monitor que le estaba mostrando. Okay?
Okay. So also on every blade, we have 12 logic pins.
Entonces, en cada, before you go to that, we have another question. Yeah.
¿Cuál es la calidad de audio que maneja y el display que soporta el play?
For that player, what is the audio quality that it handles and the bit rate?
Whoa, bueno, good question, my friends. Only WAV files.
Maneja WAV files.
Eventually, after the beginning of the year, I think the MP3 royalty thing went up. So now we can do MP3s, but for right now, it's just WAV files.
Quizás para el próximo año al principio también haga MP3, pero por ahora solo WAV.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, you can continue.
Okay, so Logic. Logic is probably the most difficult thing to work on.
Lógica
with it.
Quizás lo más difícil de trabajar en la consola.
Yeah, but so every blade has 12 logic ports.
Y cada blade tiene 12 puertos de lógica.
Most of the people that have already installed these consoles know how to use this because they had to wire up their on-air tailing.
Muchos de ustedes sabemos que saben usar esto porque ya lo han instalado. But you're going to go over it. I mean,
yeah, but I want to show you something cool that I think people would like.
Quiero enfocarse en algo que espero que les guste.
So sometimes they want to just build a talkback to somebody in another studio by pushing a button.
Entonces, quizás quieren construir un talkback para poder hablar con alguien en otro estudio.
Okay, so basically what you can do is if you had a physical button, let's say we're on pin number 7, and I had just a traditional button on the console. When I push that button, yeah, perfect. See,
Vamos a suponer que tienen un pequeño switch como este.
Basic analog stuff. So I wire that to the switch. But I want my microphone to go into the producer's headphones.
Entonces, yo quiero, por ejemplo, que mi micrófono vaya al audífono del productor.
And this is called a momentary connection. And so look how easy we made it. You double click on this.
Connection.
The destination is the speaker, and it's my microphone. Done. So when you push button number now to trigger this logic port, I've built an intercom in the Wheatstone system.
Y entonces aquí es donde prácticamente se hizo un intercom en el sistema Wheatstone con ese botón.
And then the next button, because you had 4 buttons, the next one is going to be Darren's mic, and that's button number 2.
Y el próximo botón, que va a ser número 2, puedo poner que sea el micrófono de otra persona o que sea el teléfono.
Okay. Or if you have a button on a console, like I'm in front of a console right now with a lot of soft buttons, soft LIOs. So I can do it virtually too. I don't need a physical button. I can use a on the console and do the same thing. So we've got a lot of tools in there. And last thing you can do through either virtual buttons, our screen builder will drive these, is we have the ability to change. Do I have a microphone here? Right now, we can actually change inputs on our mic processors through this as well. So somebody could take Screen Builder. They could put.
I don't think most of the users that are in this call have seen the Screen Builder. Yeah, I think we have to see that on the.
That's fine. Okay. But with those logic,
ya iba a hablar de algo del Screen Builder, pero yo pienso que la mayoría de los usuarios que están aquí no tienen el Screen Builder y eso lo vamos a ver en la sesión que vamos a hacer el 7 de enero. Before you continue, Jay, I believe we have another question. 1 second, please.
Sure.
Continúa con lo del player. ¿Es un player por navigator o por blade?
Yes.
Sorry, it's another question about the player. Is
I heard.
A player per navigator or per blade?
Per blade.
Per blade. Per blade es la respuesta. Okay.
So Baldo might know this one. So Baldo, in the United States here, we have to play a legal ID every hour. And basically we have to say, we're WJAY licensed to New Bern, North Carolina. And a lot of people would be putting that into their automation system. Now they just record it into the blade and it plays it once an hour.
Okay. Ahora, por ejemplo, una de las formas de usar el player es que, por ejemplo, en los Estados Unidos uno tiene que decir el station ID cada hora Por lo general eso se ponía en el sistema de automatización. Mucha gente lo está poniendo ahorita en el player del Blade y el player del Blade lo reproduce cada una hora.
Yep, and some people will actually got another question I can see, but some people want to play a tone at the top of the hour, whether music they're playing or it's news, and they used to have an external device to play the tone. Now you can record the tone and schedule it to play every hour.
Hay gente que necesita lanzar un tono cada una hora por cualquier razón. Muchas veces ahora se graba el tono en el Blade y en el player se reproduce cada una hora. Yes, Jay, we have another question. Sí.
Si quieren instalar el navegador en una máquina nueva, ¿cuál es el procedimiento?
If I need to install the navigator in a new machine, what is the procedure?
If they already bought it from you and they own it, we will give you a link to the new navigator. They install it and license it and away they go.
Si ya ha comprado la licencia, él le puede dar el link para que pueda tener acceso en otra computadora bajo esa licencia que usted compró. Okay.
Okay, something else. So we talked about silence detection.
Yeah.
Something else that is very powerful is the utility mixer.
Algo muy útil también es los utility mixers.
And maybe they don't do it. If they don't, I'm not going to say it. But does anybody record telephone calls?
Pero si ustedes por lo general necesitan grabar llamadas telefónicas, esto es muy útil. Okay?
Does anybody there, do they do it?
Probably they do. I'm just saying that if there is the case, you're going to show something, right?
Yeah, so one of the things that people want to do is they want to edit the phone call, okay? And if I have the caller and the microphones on the same tracks, you can't edit the caller. The microphones always sound good because we're in a studio. So what we do is we create a phone mix to send to the recorder with the microphones on one track and the callers on another.
Got it. Un ejemplo para utilizar el utility mixer es, por ejemplo, si yo necesito grabar la conversación telefónica que viene del híbrido, por lo general no sale bien si está todo pegado el caller o el micrófono, que lo tenemos un micrófono de buena calidad. Entonces, desde este utility mixer, uno de los ejemplos para usarlo es poder separar lo que es el micrófono de ese otro audio que venía del híbrido con el caller para poder después editarlo. Okay.
So what I'm doing here is I built this utility mixer. I have my microphone 1, 2.
Micrófono 1, 2, 3.
They are panned to the left. See the dots?
Todos paneados a la izquierda.
So they're going to be on this channel right here.
Entonces van a ese canal.
The caller, I have them panned all the way to the right.
Entonces el caller lo tiene paneado hacia la derecha. Disculpen la palabra.
So they're here. Okay, so now when I look at my multi-track editor, I can just edit the right track. I can increase the caller. I can add EQ. So this utility mixer is great for that.
Entonces el utility mixer es muy bueno para esta aplicación. También existen muchas otras aplicaciones. Por ejemplo, en Colombia, por poner un ejemplo, a ellos les encanta por alguna razón usar los mixer, estos Shure, y poner varios micrófonos en un mixer. Desde aquí se puede hacer eso mismo para evitar el número de canales que se usan en la consola. Entonces todo lo que yo tengo pegado en un blade de micrófono lo puedo sacar en un solo fader, convertirlos todos en un solo destino. Desde este utility mixer es que se hace.
Okay, so another good thing for this utility mixer is emergency broadcast.
Otra buena forma para utilizar el utility mixer es para broadcast en caso de emergencia.
And what I'm doing here
Y lo que él está haciendo
is now I've built a console. I've got my microphones, telephone callers, a codec, my playout 1 and my playout 2.
Entonces él aquí lo que hizo fue armar una pequeña consola con 3 micrófonos, un caller, un codec, software de automatización.
And during the pandemic, this is what people did.
Mucha gente usó esta herramienta como el utility mixer del main studio.
Okay, and so many of these people, so now I would take the Blade 61 here and I would route that to my X5 processor. Now this utility mixer is on the air.
Got it. Entonces, mucha gente lo que hizo fue enrutar este Blade al procesador de audio y mucha gente usó el utility mixer como un mixer durante la pandemia. Pero también
So
Wheatstone creó, but you also made other software,
I'm
¿no?
going to talk to you about that right now. This leads into that. Just to jump away. So,
como esto no se utilizó, no se creó originalmente por el tema de la pandemia, Wheatstone desde hace unos meses hizo un software que se llama Remix, que es el que Jay nos va a mostrar ahorita. Que es un software que lo venden por $300.
yep. And let me find, I just got to look real quick.
The Remix?
Yes, Remix Blade 144. So now what we can do is we have the ability to open this guy up. Give me just a second, and I'll have to share it with you in a second. 140. That's it. Blade 144, right? Sorry. Remix is right here. And we're going to do one. I don't know. So now let me share my screen. New share. Remix. So what the problem was earlier is we did not want to give talent access to Navigator.
Sorry, Jay, can you say that again?
I said what we didn't want to do is we didn't want to give our access to Navigator to the clients. So we built this Remix program. So Remix actually is a separate application that goes into Navigator, and actually it talks directly to the blade, and it can control the mixers in the blade.
Okay, entonces el software Remix lo que hace es que habla con el blade y controla las mezclas del blade.
Yes. So let me see if I have one here. So here it is. So I've got the clip player. So Remix is just a front end for the blade.
Just in case, I'm in your screen where it says Wheatstone Remix, and you have the mouse where it says Connect. I don't see anything.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Sure.
You don't see. You don't see this mixer?
I see about the fader. I think you have to zoom out because I see.
Nope. Here it is. How's
okay,
that?
Got it. Okay.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Remix will talk to the first utility mixer on the blade and allow you guys to
hablar con el primer utility mixer del blade, because each blade has two utility mixers, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And so
el software Remix va a hablar con el primer utility mixer de los dos que tiene cada blade. Okay.
Yeah, so this is Remix. So this was very handy during the pandemic. People didn't have the IP12s or DMXs. It was great.
De las consolas IP12 o la L2 o la L o la DMX, funciona bastante bien. Okay.
Okay, Paki. So that's probably a lot. It's been an hour and a half. Let's take some questions.
Today. Yes. ¿Tenemos alguna pregunta antes de cerrar? Pueden desmutearse en el micrófono o la pueden poner en el chat como gusten. Let's wait 1 second. Questions? No?
Preguntas?
No, apparently no more questions, Jay. Okay, la semana que viene.
Hola.
Okay, yes, we have a question.
Alfonso, una consulta un poco fuera de tiempo también, pero en sí es muy útil esta herramienta de Wheatstone y es muy flexible el tema del Navigator. Nosotros en nuestro caso tenemos la necesidad de integrarnos con canales de televisión y varias estaciones de radio. Entonces, de manera simultánea es un trabajo día a día. La parte del minus y del stream, esa parte es la que quería consultar cómo se puede hacer, cómo funciona, porque las consolas tienen 4 salidas y de repente los recursos que necesitamos son más, ¿verdad? Se van entre los teléfonos, los códecs.
Existe un Blade para eso, Pedro, pero déjame hacer la pregunta ya para que él sea el que te la responda. His question goes more into integration between radio and TV, because that's what they need to do now.
No problem.
And he was asking me about the mix minus and the 4 outputs that a Blade has, but how do you do this integration between TV and radio?
Well, I mean, is it the TV not a Wheatstone system?
No, of course not. The TV is not a
Then I give them a Matty blade for their TV system.
Exacto. Lo más seguro es que ustedes en televisión estén usando Mari, entonces para ello existe un Blade Mari, which is the embedded audio, correct?
Yeah, it's 64 channels. But what I think the question was, I think he's just working with a console blade and he's having issues with mix minus because of the 4 outputs. The answer is you add an AD blade, digital or analog blade, and configure the outputs for mono, and then you can have as much mix minus as you want.
Si tienes un problema, Pedro, con los mix minus, lo que él me está diciendo es que agregas un blade con AD y ahí pones los 4 mix minus. De todas formas, como una pregunta, si no te respondimos con esta respuesta ahorita, Pedro, yo me encargo, escríbamela por email, yo me encargo para hacerlo más en privado. Para dar oportunidad que los demás, si tienen alguna otra pregunta, también la puedan hacer. ¿Te parece, Pedro?
Genial, espectacular, no hay problema.
Perfecto.
Hay
Ok.
una pregunta.
Another question.
Si no supieron, ¿qué módulo tiene un costo adicional?
¿El remix? Sí, el software remix tiene un costo de $300. Ok. Another question. ¿Alguna otra pregunta? Ok. Bien, bueno, si no hay más preguntas, la semana que viene a la misma hora vamos a hablar más en detalle entonces de las consolas IP12, L12, y la primera semana de enero vamos a hablar más de los otros software un poco más en detalle. Queremos agradecerle, esta presentación se hizo para un grupo pequeño de clientes de 4 grupos de radios distintas. Les agradezco a todos por haber estado aquí. Y nos vemos la próxima semana. Muchísimas gracias, hasta luego, estamos a la orden y ya tenemos a todos registrados para darles unas franelitas de Trio 5 y de Wheatstone. All right, Dave, thank you very much. Thank you for the trade. See you next week again.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much, Jay. Thank
You're
you very
welcome,
much,
guys. You
Alfonso.
guys enjoy. Take care.
Bien, amigos, espero que haya disfrutado esta sesión de entrenamiento sobre el Software Navigator de Wheatstone y les invito a que vean el próximo episodio que estaremos hablando a profundidad de las consolas IP12, IP16, L12 y L16 de Wheatstone en todos sus sistemas de configuración. Muchas gracias y hasta luego.